10 chapters, one voice, and one of the coldest exits in Motown history. In June of 1968, the man singing lead on My Girl was handed legal paperwork by the other four Temptations and put out of the group. Not on the way down, not in the fade, at the top, with his voice still climbing the charts that same week.
Last week my life had meaning. It was beautiful.
His name was David Ruffin, and what happened after they threw him out is worse than the firing. Let's count it down.
Let me go someday.
Number 10, he wasn't even supposed to get the job.
The way you struck me off my feet.
In late 1963, the Temptations needed a tenor. Al Bryant was gone, and two brothers from Mississippi came up for the same spot.
The way you stole my heart. You could.
Jimmy and David Ruffin. Most accounts say Jimmy was offered it first, and Jimmy turned it down. Years later, he called that one of the best decisions of his life. He'd already had his own group, and he didn't want another one. So the job fell to his little brother. You have to understand where David came from. Why not Mississippi, a rural community about 15 miles outside Meridian, third son of a Baptist minister. His mother died shortly after he was born, leaving him and his older siblings to be raised by their father and stepmother. The family toured the South as a gospel group all through his childhood, and at 14 he left home to sing with the Dixie Nightingales. That family act opened for Mahalia Jackson and the Five Blind Boys of Mississippi. Later he'd travel with the Soul Stirrers, the same group that gave the world Sam Cooke and Lou Rawls.
You know that you could be an hour.
A kid who spent part of his childhood in a house with no running water, dreaming about being famous, which, for a black boy in the Jim Crow South, might as well have been dreaming about walking to the moon, and he'd already failed at it once.
I've been a cool kid, and baby, you're so smart.
By 1961, he was recording for Anna Records with a group called the Voice Masters, a lineup that at one point included Lamont Dozier and at another point a young Melvin Franklin. He was signed briefly to Chess Records at 17. None of it caught on.
And baby, you're so sweet.
So when he finally got in front of the Temptations, he didn't audition. He ambushed them. He climbed on stage with them at a Detroit lounge and started throwing the microphone in the air, catching it, dropping into full splits.
As pretty as you are. You know you could have been.
Otis Williams wrote that he was singing like a man possessed. That's not a job interview. That's a hostile takeover. They gave him the edge over his own brother because of exactly that. He sealed it performing with them at Motown's New Year's Eve party at the end of 1963, and his first session with the group was January 9th, 1964. And here's what gets me.
You made my life complete. The way you do the things you do. You made my life.
If Jimmy says yes, none of this exists. No My Girl as you know it. One man's no became another man's entire life.
And I can tell the way you do the things you
The group broke through that spring with The Way You Do the Things You Do, and when somebody told David it was climbing the Billboard charts, he burst into tears. The man who'd eventually demand his name above the group. The first time success touched him, he broke down crying. That's who walked in the door. Number 9. For his entire first year, they hid him. You'd assume a voice like that goes straight to the front. It didn't.
I've got a sweeter song.
After he joined, Ruffin mostly sang background. The lead spots alternated between Eddie Kendricks and Paul Williams. He did get a few leads that first year, on stage and in the studio, and those studio recordings sat on the shelf for over a year because nobody thought they showcased him well enough. Think about that. The greatest voice in the building, in a drawer, marked not good enough yet. And the group wasn't guaranteed anything either. Through 1962 and 1963, the Temptations had put out a string of singles that scratched the R&B top 40 and went nowhere near what Mary Wells and the Miracles and the Marvelettes were doing on the pop side.
When it's cold outside,
The Way You Do the Things You Do finally cracked it in 1964, number 11 on the Hot 100, 11 weeks on the chart. A hit, not a landmark. But Smokey Robinson heard something nobody else did.
I guess you said what.
He described Ruffin in that stretch as a sleeping giant, a voice that was somehow mellow and gruff at the same time. Smokey has said it plainly. He knew that if he could land a hit on David, the group would become multifaceted.
Make me feel this way, my girl.
So he sat down and wrote something specifically with Ruffin's voice in mind. He wrote it with Ronnie White of the Miracles. You already know what it was. My Girl was recorded across 2 months in the fall of 1964 and released December 21st. On March 6, 1965, it hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the group's first million-selling single. Motown paid its writers a $1,000 bonus for a number 1. Smokey and Ronnie White collected. First number 1 the Temptations ever had. And here's the thing about that record. It isn't loud. It isn't showing off. It's a man singing softly and completely meaning every word, and that restraint is the hardest thing in the world to pull off. He'd spent a year being told he wasn't ready. Then he opened his mouth one time and rearranged American music. If you've ever had a song attached to one specific person, a specific porch, a specific summer, somebody's kitchen radio on a Saturday morning, then My Girl isn't background music to you. It's a location. Some of y'all heard it the first time in a very particular room with very particular people, and half of them aren't here anymore. You know exactly where you were. Real talk. Only 9% of you are subscribed. That hurts. We're spending hours digging through archives, fact-checking every detail, bringing these stories back to life. And if you're watching this far, you clearly care. So hit subscribe. It's free and takes 2 seconds. Now, to my subscribers, barely any of you have joined the membership. And honestly, that stings even more. You know the work we put in. You keep coming back. If these videos have ever made you feel something, if this music means something to you, join the membership. It's $1 coffee a month, and it's the only way we keep this going. Let's build this together. All right, back to it. Number 8. Marvin Gaye was intimidated by him. Marvin once said of Ruffin's voice that he heard in it a strength his own voice lacked. Marvin Gaye said that about another man singing. That's not a compliment. That's a confession. And he wasn't alone. Martha Reeves held Ruffin in the same regard. Rod Stewart and Daryl Hall were flat out awed by him. Rolling Stone would eventually place him among the 100 greatest singers of all time. 6'3", pencil thin, those glasses, and on the biggest stages in the country, the Copacabana, national television, he routinely walked off with the entire show. Then the hits stack up so fast it stops sounding real. Ain't Too Proud to Beg in 1966. I Know, I'm Losing You in 1966. I Wish It Would Rain in 1967. Since I Lost My Baby, Beauty Is Only Skin Deep. That double lead with Kendrick's on You're My Everything, 1967 alone, gave them All I Need, You're My Everything, and It's You That I Need. 4 years. That's the whole run. 4 years of a man being the sound of Motown. Here's the detail I can't get out of my head. According to Otis Williams, Ruffin worked up such a sweat recording Ain't Too Proud to Beg that his glasses were sliding off his face. In the studio, with no audience, nobody watching.
Let your friends laugh, even this I can stand.
That's not performance. That's a man who physically could not hold anything back, even when there was no reason to spend it. And if you've ever worked beside somebody like that, somebody who burns at full temperature over things that don't require it, you already know the ending before I tell you. That kind of fire doesn't come with a low setting. The glasses became the trademark. The splits became the trademark. Grown men in the audience started copying the way he stood, and nobody in that group was casual about what they had either. Otis Williams has said the five of them made each other a promise that no matter how much fame came, they wouldn't change. Now think about what fame actually does to a promise like that.
I don't mind weeping if it'll keep you by my side.
5 men make it in a rehearsal room, broke, nobody knowing their names. Then one of them becomes the reason the money exists.
I don't mind, 'cause you mean that much to me. Ain't too proud.
By 1967, the man carrying the sound started doing arithmetic.
Ain't too proud. Baby, baby.
Number 7, the mink-lined limousine with his name on the side. By 1967, Ruffin was riding to and from gigs in a private, mink-lined limousine with his girlfriend at the time, Motown singer Tammy Terrell, instead of the group limo the other 4 Temptations shared. Lined with mink upholstery, his name written on the outside, 4 men in one car, 1 man in another car with his name on it, night after night after night. You can imagine how that sat. But here's where it stops being a punchline. Motown had just renamed the Supremes as Diana Ross and the Supremes. Ruffin looked at that and felt entitled to the same treatment and demanded the group be renamed David Ruffin and the Temptations. The Miracles had already become Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. Same logic, same label, same era. So let me ask you the honest question. Was he wrong? He's the lead voice on the #1 record. The company has literally just done this exact thing twice on its own roster. He asks for the same deal, and history files him under ego. I'd argue he had a real case and catastrophic timing. I know plenty of people see that completely differently, and I'd like to hear it. Because the counter-argument isn't weak. Otis Williams' position was simple. The group had promised each other they wouldn't change, and Ruffin was putting himself in front of the There were 4 other men in that lineup who'd sung on the same records, done the same choreography, ridden the same buses through the same segregated towns. And there's a piece of this that often gets lost. His appetite for a solo career was also being fed by watching his own brother. Jimmy Ruffin had just scored a top 10 hit with What Becomes of the Broken-Hearted. The brother who turned the Temptations down was now succeeding without a group. And David's sitting in a mink limousine outside a venue, doing the math on whether he needs 4 other men at all. Two men, both with a point, walking straight at each other, and then Ruffin asked a question that made everything 100 times worse. Number 6. He asked where the money was going. This part almost never makes the documentaries. I'm hurting, downhearted, and worried. Ruffin started creating friction with Berry Gordy directly by demanding an accounting of the group's earnings. Motown partly gave in, letting the Temptations bring in an outside accounting firm. But that firm never got full access to the books because the books were held by the group's management company, International Talent Management, which was itself a Motown subsidiary. Listen to that again slowly. The artists hire an independent auditor. The auditor can't see the records because the records live inside a company owned by the same label that's paying them. And the man asking the question is the same man everybody's already calling difficult. Here's the piece underneath all of it, and it explains nearly everything that follows. David Ruffin had always been signed to Motown as a solo artist, while the rest of the group operated under a collective contract. On paper, he was never fully one of them. I'm another man. Speak my name. It's just not the same. He was a solo act standing in a group formation, singing the leads, riding in a different car, signed on a different line. That structure was always going to break. The only question was when and how loud. Don't you feel it? Can't you feel it? Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the money question is why they let him go. It isn't. The missed rehearsals were real. The missed group meetings were real. The cocaine was real. And it was making him unreliable in a business that runs entirely on showing up. In the morning, you got to feel it. 4 men were watching a 5th man put their livelihoods at risk. That's not pettiness. That's mortgages. But when a man asks for an audit and a few months later gets described as out of control, whether those two things ever touched each other, I'll let you decide. Nobody left a memo, and that's what makes this a tragedy instead of a villain story. Everybody in the room had a reason. Otis had a reason. Barry had a reason. David had a reason. They were all defending something real, and every single one of them lost anyway. Number 5. He missed Cleveland for a girl. On June 22, 1968, the Temptations had a date in Cleveland. Ruffin didn't show. He'd gone to the Latin Casino in Cherry Hill, New Jersey instead, to watch one of Dean Martin's daughters perform. Her name was Barbara Gayle Martin. She was his new girlfriend. For the other 4, that was the line. It isn't fair.
don't want me to cry no more.
5 days later, June 27, 1968, the other four drew up legal documentation and officially fired him. And the very next day, Dennis Edwards, formerly of the Contours, a man Kendricks and Otis Williams had already quietly identified as a replacement, was hired to take his place.
Oh, woman, don't treat me so mean, so.
Legal documentation, not a conversation, not an argument in a dressing room. Paperwork, drawn up by four men he'd spent 4 years standing shoulder to shoulder with, and a replacement in the building inside 24 hours.
I then have to pack my things and go.
That tells you this wasn't a snap decision made in anger. This had been planned. Somebody had already made the phone call. Now here's what makes it the most brutal firing in Motown history. 2 months earlier, on April 18, 1968, the group had released I Could Never Love Another, After Loving You, the last Temptations single ever to feature David Ruffin on lead. It went to number 13 on the Hot 100 and all the way to number 1 on the R&B chart. So while he's being handed his removal papers, his voice is coming out of every radio in America.
What you trying to do to me? Well, I can't be talking over.
Sitting at number 1, right that minute. That's what thrown out at the height of his fame actually means. Not near the peak. Standing on it. And one more thing about that record, because the man deserves the mention. The lyrics came from Roger Penzabene, who also wrote I Wish It Would Rain. He built both songs out of his own real heartbreak, after finding out his wife had been unfaithful, writing them as personal statements to her.
Oh, woman, don't treat me so mean, so.
He died at 23. It was his final composition. A man poured the worst year of his life into 2 songs. He didn't live to see what they became. And the singer who carried those words got fired, while the second one was still on the charts. Nobody in that story got to keep anything.
You don't want to see me cry. Oh, baby, please.
Number 4. He personally picked the man who replaced him. Dennis Edwards told this story for years, including to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch in 2013. Ruffin, his friend, knocked on his door at 4 a.m. and asked him to replace him in the Temptations. Edwards' reaction was, "Wow, replace you?" He thought Ruffin was joking. He thought the man was a little tipsy. He wasn't joking. Within weeks, Edwards was standing in his spot on the risers. And at first, Ruffin went along with it. He encouraged Edwards. They were genuinely close. Then it got real to him. July 7th, 1968, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, Dennis Edwards' official debut with the Temptations. Ruffin came to the show, jumped on stage, took the microphone out of Edwards' hands, sang lead on Ain't Too Proud to Beg, and disappeared as fast as he'd arrived. Then he did it again, repeatedly, through the group's entire July run. They hired extra security specifically to keep him out of the buildings. He kept finding ways in. Timing it so he'd surface the exact moment they started one of the songs he used to own. The group was humiliated. The crowds absolutely loved it. And that's the whole tragedy in one image, isn't it? A grown man buying his way into a venue to sing a song he made famous, to an audience that came to hear him sing it in a group that no longer employed him. If you've ever been walked out of something you helped build, where the work is still yours, your fingerprints are on all of it, but your name came off the door, you know that specific brand of madness.
I was raised an only child. My folks died when I was 4.
It isn't about the paycheck. It's that the thing keeps existing without you, in front of you, using your voice.
So all my love I gave to Jeff, 'cause he was all I had.
And there's a version of this story, told by Edwards himself, disputed by Otis Williams and the group's road manager, where it almost worked, where the crowd reactions and a remorseful Ruffin begging to come back actually convinced the others.
That decision without any type of defense. They said if we wait.
Otis reportedly told the brand new Edwards in Gaithersburg, Maryland, that he was being laid off and Ruffin was coming back. And then Ruffin didn't show up on time for his own return. He got the door reopened, and he was late. That's not a villain. That's a man who could not get out of his own way. Number 3, his first solo hit was a song written for the Temptations. Here's the cruelty of it. My whole world ended the moment you left me was originally meant for the Temptations, back when Ruffin was still fronting the group. Once he was out, Motown simply handed the song to him. Same song, same singer, different letterhead. It came out January 20th, 1969. The album went top 10, powered by the title track hitting number 2 R&B. The single reached number 9 on the Hot 100. Now say the title out loud again. My whole world ended the moment you left me. Sung by a man who'd just been thrown out of the biggest vocal group in America. That's not marketing. That's a man singing his own obituary and it going top 10. And he was fighting the whole time. He sued to get released from his Motown contract. Motown countersued to keep him. It settled, and he kept recording for them anyway. In 1970, he went back to court to try again, and got nowhere. That same year, he made a whole album with his brother, I Am My Brother's Keeper. Motown released the weaker songs as singles, and it stalled at number 15 R&B, 178 pop. The two of them did cut a genuinely great version of He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother together. Then nothing. After that first solo hit, no chart appearances at all until 1975, 6 years, the greatest voice in soul music, sitting out. Then late 1975, Van McCoy produces Walk Away from Love, written by Charles Kipps. It sells 1 million. 1 week at number 1 on the R&B chart, the only R&B number 1 of his solo career. Number 9 pop, number 10 in the UK. And honestly, some people are going to fight me on this. I think that's the finest vocal he ever recorded. Better than My Girl. There's a control in it the 23-year-old didn't have yet, and a weariness the 23-year-old hadn't earned. Then the floor gave out. In 1982, he served time in a federal penitentiary for tax evasion. And while he was inside, doing that time in Indiana, his house on Parkside in Detroit was foreclosed on. His belongings put out onto the street. The man who sang My Girl came home to a curb. Number 2, they threw him out twice.
My roads were closed, and Mark would never know.
That's the part most people never learn. It wasn't one firing, it was 2.
But now my life has changed, and the way
In April 1982, the Temptations released an album called Reunion and toured behind it, bringing David Ruffin and Eddie Kendricks back after a decade away. A 7-man version of the group: Otis Williams, Melvin Franklin, Dennis Edwards, Glenn Leonard, Richard Street, plus Ruffin and Kendricks. Rick James produced the lead single, Standing on the Top, repaying a favor since the Temptations had sung backing vocals on Super Freak the year before. And James happened to be Melvin Franklin's cousin. It became their biggest hit in years, number 6 R&B. The album went to number 2 on the R&B chart and sat there 5 weeks. On paper, the comeback worked. Then it collapsed in exactly the way you're afraid it did. Ruffin was deep in addiction and missed show after show. Kendricks couldn't reach his high notes anymore. Years of smoking had done real damage to his voice. Every missed date cost the group serious money. Otis Williams decided the reunion would not be permanent and fired Ruffin and Kendricks in November of 1982. 14 years apart, same room, same result, same man making the call. But stay with me here, because the last decade of his life isn't only that. On May 23, 1985, Ruffin and Kendricks stood on the Apollo Theater stage with Hall & Oates and cut a live album. That same summer, they joined Hall & Oates again at Live Aid in Philadelphia. Two men the industry had written off, standing in front of the largest audience of their lives. Then in 1989, the Temptations went into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Hall & Oates inducted them.
All I did was sit at home and watch.
Daryl Hall paid tribute to the late Paul Williams, then started an a cappella Don't Look Back. And one by one, Otis Williams, Melvin Franklin, David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks, and Dennis Edwards came in behind him in harmony. And at that ceremony, David and Otis, the man who'd put him out twice, visibly buried the hatchet in front of everybody in the room. If you've ever made peace with somebody after 20 years of silence and felt how strange it is that it cost almost nothing once you finally did it, you know that feeling, and you know the thought that lands right after. We could have done this years ago. They had 2 years left. Number 1, June 1st, 1991, Philadelphia.
Every time you touch my hand.
He'd just come home from a good run, a month-long tour of England with Eddie Kendricks and Dennis Edwards, 3 former Temptations, working, together, out on the road, still filling rooms. Then, Philadelphia.
To keep walking out the door.
It was nearly 3 in the morning when a gray stretch limousine pulled up to the emergency room entrance at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital.
I'm gonna walk away from.
Attendants looked in the back seat and found a tall, gaunt man slumped unconscious. No identification on him. $53 in his pockets. He died about an hour later. It took an FBI fingerprint check to confirm who he was.
Than you ever have before. I don't understand it.
He was pronounced dead at 3:55 a.m. from an adverse reaction to cocaine, after emergency room staff spent almost an hour trying to revive him. He had collapsed at a house in West Philadelphia. The death was ruled accidental. His family never accepted it. They believed a money belt containing $40,000 was missing from his body. That question has never been answered.
To take the place of you.
50 years old, the greatest lead voice Motown ever produced, unidentified in the back of a car. And then the city that raised him showed up.
Breaks my heart.
More than 2,000 people lined the streets of Detroit outside New Bethel Baptist Church. Stevie Wonder sang, Aretha Franklin sang, the surviving Temptations sang My Girl over his casket.
Oh, baby.
Kendricks, Franklin, Otis Williams, Ollie Woodson, Richard Street, Damon Harris, Ricky Owens, they gathered around the open casket and sang his songs back to him.
Pushing me away, so leave it.
And in a pew, Eddie Kendricks sat hunched over, weeping, saying goodbye to the man he'd sung with, fought with, and been fired alongside.
And it's not that I found someone.
A friend put it plainly that day. They loved each other, they hated each other, but they were always better together than apart. 16 months later, Kendricks was gone too, lung cancer. 52.
Ooh, you're clinging to me tighter.
The funeral itself was paid for by Michael Jackson, who volunteered to cover the expenses and did not attend the service. The family had been struggling to afford it.
I'm gonna walk away from.
Let that land. The voice on My Girl, one of the most valuable recordings in American history, and the people who loved him couldn't cover the burial.
It's not that I don't love you.